In the quiet town of Astoria, Oregon, there is an old house called the Flavel House. It was built in the late 80s and belonged to Captain George Flavel, a rich and important man. But this house is famous for more than just its history. People say it's haunted by ghosts. One stormy night in 1923, the Flavel family had a big party. The house was full of decorations, music, and laughter. A young maid and Elizabeth was working during the party. She was amazed by all the rich people and beautiful decorations. As the storm got worse, Elizabeth felt a strange pull towards the attic, scared but curious. She went up the narrow stairs with a candle. The attic was dark and filled with odd things. Suddenly she felt a cold hand on her shoulder. But when she turned around, no one was there. The attic door slammed shut, trapping her inside. She screamed, but no one heard her over the noise of the party. Hours later, when the party ended, Elizabeth was found dead, her face frozen in the fear. Years went by and different families lived in the Flavel house. Each family reported strange things. They heard footsteps with no was there, doors opening and closing by themselves, and the sound of the woman crying. Some even saw Elizabeth's ghost, looking scared, wandering the attic and halls. In 1983, the house became a museum. People came to see its beauty and hear about its spooky history. One day, a group of high school students visited. They sneaked away from their guide and went to attic. One girl named Sarah looked a lot like Elizabeth. In the attic, Sarah found an old mirror. When she looked into it, she saw Elizabeth's face instead of her own. The mirror shattered and the room went dark. The other students ran away, but Sarah could not move. When the staff found her, she was unconscious. When she woke up, she did not remember what happened, but she felt very scared. After that, the attic was closed off. Even today, people who visit the Flavel house say they feel cool spots, hear whispers, and sometimes see a young woman in a maid uniform with a terrified face. Elizabeth's ghost still haunts the house, a sad reminder of tragedy that happened there. After the attic was closed, the strange happenings at the Flavel house did not stop. The museum staff tried to ignore the odd events, but it was impossible to deny that something was very wrong. One evening, a security guard named Tom was working the night shift. The museum was quiet and Tom was doing his round. As he passed by the closed attic door, he heard a faint scratching sound coming from inside. He paused, listening closely, and scratching grew louder. Nervously, he called out, "Is there anyone?" But there was no response. Gathering his courage, he decided to open the door. When he unlocked the attic door, it creaked open slowly. Tom shined his flashlight into the dark space, but it seemed empty. The scratching stopped, and for a moment everything was silent. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind blew past him, almost knocking him off his feet. The flashlight flickered, and he heard a whisper right next to his ear. "Help me!" Terrified, Tom slammed the door shut and looked it. He ran downstairs, heart pounding, and reported what had happened to his supervisor. The next day, the museum decided to bring in a paranormal investigator to see if they could find out what was going on. The investigator, a woman named Claire, arrived with her team. They set up cameras and recording devices around the house, especially near the attic. As they started their investigations, they experienced several strange occurrences. Doors would open and close on their own, and cold spots would appear suddenly, even though the heating system was working perfectly. One night while reviewing footage, Claire noticed something eerie. On the video from attic, they saw a faint ghostly figure of a young woman dressed in her old maid's uniform moving slowly through the attic. Her face was pale and sad, her eyes pleading for help. It was Elizabeth. Claire decided to hold a scene to try to communicate with Elizabeth. She and her team gathered in the attic with a few brave museum staff members. They formed a circle and held hands, calling out Elizabeth. After a few moments, the temperature dropped drastically and the lights flickered. Claire felt a presence and asked Elizabeth, "Are you here with us?" A soft voice replied, "Yes." Claire continued, "Elizabeth, what happened to you? How can we help you?" Elizabeth's voice, filled with sorrow, told her story. She explained that on that stormy night in 1923, she had been lured to the attic by a spirit. The spirit was angry and trapped her there, causing her death. Elizabeth's spirit could not move on because of the fear and confusion she left in her final moments. Claire asked, "What can we do to help you find peace?" Elizabeth's voice grew fainter. Set me free from this place. Determined to help, Claire and her team decided to perform a cleansing ritual. They lit candles, burned sage, and recited prayers to release Elizabeth's spirit from the attic. As they did this, a warm light filled the room, and Elizabeth's ghostly figure appeared one last time, smiling gratefully before fading away. After the ritual, the strange occurrences in the Flavel house decreased significantly. Visitors still reported feeling a presence now and then, but it was no longer menacing. Instead, it seemed as though Elizabeth was finally at peace and the house returned to its former quiet beauty. The story of Elizabeth and haunted Flavel house became a legend in Australia. People still visit, hoping to catch a glimpse of the past and pay their respects to the young maid whose spirits have finally been set free. The house, with its rich history and lingering mysteries, remains a testament to the town's enduring fascinating with the supernatural.